platform. And that platform had technical challenges, not just for us, but for, I guess, a lot of different companies. And so what we did is we did a quick pivot, like everything in life right now. We switched to Zoom for a few days, and now we're on YouTube. This is our new home. And where we'll be in this way are not only are we running live for YouTube, but then the videos will be available right away for everybody who's watching. So again, thanks for joining us. Today, we are super excited. We have Sarge Pickman. And let me tell you about Sarge. And he has got a super great background. He is an entertainer. Oh, hold on a second. This is what's happening when all of a sudden I'm going live in a new format. He is an entertainer who has performed worldwide, opening for some of the biggest names: Natalie Cole, Aretha Franklin, the Beach Boys, you name it, and just to name a few. But he had a real challenging road to where he got now, starting with a super sexy high flying life and some challenges along the way. And so we welcome Sarge to the show today, and he's going to tell us all about what he's done, how he's gotten to where he is, and some really great lessons he learned along the way. So Sarge, join us, and thank you for coming on today. Hello.
Thank you for having me. Wow, you're in my house. And you're your new home. YouTube is your new home. It's exciting.
YouTube is my new home, yes. And you are coming to us from South Florida. I am so jealous. That's one of my favorite places to be, is South Florida.
Well, not right now. It's not open yet.
No, but
we're still closed.
Yeah, but you at least get to go out.
The good news is people aren't driving, because in Florida, you've got people who can't hear, can't see, have no memory, don't know who they are, can't feel their hands, can't turn their head this way or this way. They have no idea where they're going, and they're driving. So at least they're not by you. They're over here by me, and they haven't started letting out of their garages yet.
Well, you've got such beautiful weather down there. You know, when we first met, I loved hearing about your life. Started off like you were so smart what you did early on to put yourself in this super sexy and exciting environment. Do you want to tell us about that?
When I started off, or when I was born?
Well, when you were born, you were probably very smart and sexy then too.
But when I got out of college?
Yes.
You're referring to?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Believe it or not, I was the only straight person, I think I'm straight, in the entire fashion industry. I don't take no for an answer. I'm the most persevering person. Like, if you tell me no, I'll just keep calling you until you say, okay, okay, okay. But when I was at Boston University, my friend and I decided we wanted to be in the modeling business. We were girls. We said, you know what? We're in the School of Communications. Let's go pitch an agency on our ability to run their PR. And so my buddy and I went in, and we met with the head of this agency. She was in the paper that day, said she was opening her doors in 2 weeks. We said, you know what? We're graduate students in public relations, and we'd like to run your PR. I mean, what's with all this pesky retaining a PR firm? We'll do it in-house, and we will make sure you are the top agency in Boston within 6 months. I said 6 months. Within 3 months, she was the top agency in Boston. We did all kinds of guerrilla marketing. We did all kinds of crazy schemes and scams. But at the end of the day, the agency was getting talked about. Doesn't matter what you say about me, just spell my name right. And it culminated in a fashion show that I did at a large dance club down there. And it just so happens that all the top agents from New York were in town in Boston for a convention the same week that I was doing this monster fashion show with all the talent from our agency. Right. And I got a number of job offers from the representatives from the top agencies in New York. And I fortunately took the last one, which, because the first one just said, oh, have you ever heard of us? We're the Ford modeling agency. And I was like, of course I've heard of you. You know, you make the Escape and the, the various cars. And she says, oh, you're so silly. No, we're models. And I said, oh, right. I know. I'm just kidding. I'm from New York. I know who you are. And then Elite came over. Finally, Wilhelmina came over, and a woman from Wilhelmina offered me a job. She said, but I'll train you. The other ones didn't offer me training. And I had no idea what I was doing anyway, because I hadn't even finished college yet. But by the time the first year had elapsed, I was in New York on Fifth Avenue working as a booking agent in New York.
Because you just went for
in
it.
One of the top agencies in the business.
Which is such a skill in itself, and people don't realize they can just ask the question. You can pick up the phone and ask and then prove yourself, which so many people are afraid to do. Why do you think that you just did that? Why do you think that you had that wherewithal that you could just go for it when you were
I
still in
didn't,
college?
yeah, I didn't know that I should have been scared. I
That's
didn't know
awesome.
I should have been scared. I mean, today, you and I are talking about it. We'd have to think it through, strategize, figure it out. But the truth is, I went back to that way of doing things. I don't let fear get in the way of a good idea because
Mhm.
I'll give you an example. I'm a comedian. I go on stage. I don't pre-think it. I don't write it. I just go on stage in front of a live audience back when we could still get together as audiences. Remember those
Right.
days?
Yeah.
And I put it out there because I trust completely and have faith completely in my ability to put things together the same way as this interview today. You said, well,
Mhm.
what do you want me to ask you? Let me lead you to some things. I said, no, just let's be organic. I
Mhm.
have complete confidence and courage and faith that you and I can have an engaging conversation about something without pre-planning it.
You've also said that you replace fear with gratitude. I thought that was such a great line, that instead of being fearful of something, you think about your gratitude around the situation and go for it.
Fear is the antidote for gratitude is the antidote for fear.
Mhm.
If you're fearful, all you have to do is become grateful. You can't be both at the same time. When you constantly remind yourself about the things which you're grateful for, it doesn't allow you to be scared. And you're coming from a completely different domain of your existence. Fear is something that racks a lot of people. I have to
Sure.
remember I'm grateful that I'm resourceful, that I'm loving, that I'm kind, I'm generous. I have to remind myself on a daily basis. This isn't something I do once and then I'm done. Gratitude is something I have to remind myself. I'm grateful. If you woke up in the morning and there was no air, you
Mhm.
just woke up and you tried to breathe and there's no air,
Right.
right? You'd be grateful for a breath of air. If you were diving,
Right.
you were scuba diving on vacation and your tanks ran out and you were 60 feet below the surface, you would be
Mhm.
grateful for one more breath of air to get to the surface. I treat
Right.
life the same way. I am grateful that I get to, you said, oh, thanks for doing this. Thanks for making time. No, I'm grateful that you're doing this and it's an opportunity for us to share some of our little pearls, whatever they
Mhm.
might be, with other people that may, lift them up. So,
Sure.
gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. And I count them on my fingers. I do them in the shower. I do them while driving. I do them while I'm waiting on customer service lines. I count gratitudes. I remind myself to be ferociously grateful because nothing is more attractive in a person than someone who's peaceful
Mhm.
and gracious about their existence. If I'm grateful about my existence, everything else is whatever it is. I'm
But
grateful. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, but where did you learn this from, and how did you come to this? Because you didn't always have it so easy.
I was a homeless person on drugs and alcohol, believe it or not. I was addicted to
Mhm.
3 kinds of narcotics and alcohol. I was doing ketamine, PCP, and crack cocaine, and drinking an entire quart to a fifth of whiskey every single day. I robbed my friend's apartment in order to stay high. I stole for my addiction. I robbed his place while he was away on vacation. He came home. He came and found me. He asked me where his stuff was. I told him that I had hocked it down on 46th Street in Manhattan in the jewelry district. It was all
Mhm.
kinds of watches and bracelets and cufflinks.
Things
And
were very important to him, and he had actually offered you a place to stay because you were living on the streets. Is that
yeah,
right?
he didn't know. He didn't. I still had nice clothes left over from when I wasn't homeless. And he
Right.
thought I was looking for a place to stay for the weekend, and he was going away anyway, so he left me his keys. I robbed him. He came and found me in the streets. I don't know how he did that, and asked me where his stuff was. And I told him that I had sold it for drugs. And he said, "Let's get you some help." 24 hours later, I was at a treatment center in Delray Beach, Florida, where I was encouraged, and I don't want to turn this into the Christian Broadcasting Network, but I was encouraged to pray for the obsession to drink and drug to be removed from my life.
Mhm.
And without detox medications, without detox,
Mhm.
I prayed. I just said, please remove the obsession of drinking drugs. And the next morning when I woke up at this place, I no longer had the obsession. It had been removed. And I can't explain it the way I can't. It's not a parlor trick. It's not some trumped up story. It's what actually happened. And that was 30 years ago. And it's not the same experience that other people have had. But shortly after that, I believe that at incremental, crucial key times in your life, mentors, people who have tremendous amounts to offer you, show up at exactly the right moments. That's been my experience. The first one for me was the gentleman that met me at the door of the treatment center and encouraged me to pray. The second one was my spiritual guide, my mentor, who helped me stay clean and sober by teaching me what I needed to know in order to do that. Because the truth of the matter is, for addiction, you have to treat the addiction yourself. Once you've gone through treatment, you have to treat it. It's not getting clean and sober that's hard. It's staying clean and sober that's hard. And I was taught I had mentors. The first guy that hired me to bring the carts in off the lot at Home Depot when I was living in a halfway house. And then it was the guy at ESPN that interviewed me roughly a year and a half later, and they were looking at 225 potential applicants, and they hired me, and I ended up working at ESPN. The guy who gave me his pull-out sofa a year after that in '92 so that I could begin a comedy career, because I always wanted to be a comedian, but now my spiritual energy had risen to a place where I felt I couldn't fail. Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. Moved to my friend's sofa. And then it was, oh my God. I'm reading Sammy Davis Jr.'s autobiography. This was unbelievable. And they're at the part where Sammy Davis Jr. gets his big break to open for Frank Sinatra at Radio City Music Hall. And I'm on the Stairmaster in Los Angeles. And I'm reading the book, and the phone rings. It was the early days of cell phones. And I put a bookmark in the book, and I stepped away from the Stairmaster. It was my agent in New York. He says, I need you to get on the red eye tonight to come to New York. I said, why? He said, well, you're opening tomorrow night for Donna Summer at Radio City Music Hall. And I just read about Sammy Davis Jr. opening for Frank Sinatra. It was the page I was on.
Right.
It also turned out that Sammy Davis Jr. and his trio, his uncle and his father, they were the first Black people to ever stay in a hotel room in New York. And so Sinatra poked his head into their dressing room in this story as it goes, and he says, is there anything I can do for you? He says, we're tired of taking the bus over to New Jersey, and you get a hotel room in New York. Blacks, African Americans had never stayed in a hotel room in New York. He says, I'll tell you what, after the show, go over to the Warwick Hotel, tell them you're friends of mine. And so they walked uptown after the show. They walked in, and the Warwick said, can we help you, gentlemen? Yes, we're here for a room. Oh, we don't take Blacks here. He said, we're friends of Mr. Sinatra, and they gave them a room. When I asked my agent where I was going to be staying after opening at Radio City Music Hall, he said, we've arranged a room for you at the Warwick Hotel. If you just get out of the way, amazing things happen. I haven't made anything. I was trying so hard early in my life to make things happen. I was grinding myself to dust. It's not about making things happen. It's about becoming a more peaceful, grateful individual so that you can stay out of the way for all of the great things that are supposed to happen. And that's exactly what it's been. And the universe has put in my path throughout the course of the last 30 years, amazing people that have guided me, that have buoyed me, that have carried me, that have mentored me, that have inspired me, that have kept me going. So it's been an amazing journey from homeless to a place now where I am my own business. I'm an entertainer. I'm the head of the sales force. I'm the CEO. I'm the mailroom guy. I'm the guy that cleans up afterwards. I'm the guy that has to make sure the piano gets tuned. I do all the jobs gratefully because I remember being the guy bringing the carts in off the lot at Home Depot, because that's the only job I had.
An interesting lesson here too is that your friend didn't have to come find you and help you get into a rehab. Your friend could have found you and had you arrested for stealing his things and selling his things, right? And so he cared about you enough and believed in you enough that he helped you. And not everybody has those people or is so fortunate too. And so again, there must be a lot of gratitude for that man.
tell them to call me. I'll be that person for them. Because I've had a dozen of them. I've had miracle people in my life that have taught me, carried me, shown me. And, you know, and by not having my own set ways, by keeping it really simple, right? I'll give you an example. 2006, I met a great guy named Gary Marshall. Incredible director, phenomenal comedy writer, had been working since the Korean War right up until, you know, the last movie he did, New Year's Eve and such. I did a show in Los Angeles. He was in the fourth row, just so happens, 3,500 people. I'm a complete unknown. Nobody knows who I am. I blew the doors off the place. He was sitting in the fourth row. A friend of mine came backstage. He says, "Are your agents here? Are your agents here?" I said, "What agents? I'm here alone." He says, "Gary Marshall loved you. He was howling and doubled over. You got to get in touch with him somehow." So anyhow, as the story goes, I sent him a note by FedEx. I didn't mail it. I sent a note to him saying, "I would have loved to have met you after the show just to shake your hand. I'm a big fan." And I FedExed it. Key point to your business people: don't mail anything. It gets lost in the mail on their desk. FedEx letters get opened immediately with priority. So I sent it, and 2 days later, the phone rings. "What are you so happy about?" he said to me. I said, "Who is this?" "What are you?" Because it said unknown number in the cell phone. "What are you so happy about?" So I said, "Who is this?" I kept asking, "Who is this?" He says, "I could see how happy you are as a comedian. You're a happy person." He said, "Most comedians, miserable, neurotic, maudlin, unhappy, dark, tragic, pathos people." He says, "You come from joy." I said, "You can see that?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "I don't have an answer for you. The only thing I can tell you is I'm doing my dream, and my dream I started as an outgrowth of a new peaceful chapter of my life. You know, I didn't become after I had slayed many of the demons, as it turns out. This man told me, "I don't know what's ever going to happen to you in your career. I don't know if you're ever going to make it huge." He said, "But let me just tell you, I've worked with everybody that was important in comedy for the last 60 years, and you are as talented and as funny and as bright, and you're the only happy one I've ever met. Happy is important." So all these people are looking for, how can I be happy? I'm looking for happiness. I'm happiness in my relationship, happiness with my clients or my business, happy, happy, happy. The way to be happy is to find your sweet spot, find your center, and it's gratitude. I am grateful for what I have. You've heard people say it all the time. I don't have much, but what I have is mine. When I find a way to look for what I have instead of what I don't have, I'm a much more satisfied, much more useful, much more productive, much more joyful person. I'm capable of happy. When I'm looking for what's not, can't do it.
Well, and with that, you have a very successful business too. And you've said that you've focused on the business of your business and the business of being a comedian and making it a business. And one of the questions that we have is, how do you bring all of these serious life experiences into your comedy as part of your success?
When you tell the truth about them, you tell the truth about them. Your truth is much more riveting, much more compelling, much more in sync with who you really are. When you make stuff up, the whole world is fiction. The movie world, there's so many made up jokes and so many made up gags and so many made up trick shots on Instagram that get all kinds of hits. But what really resonates with people at the end of the day is when who you are and when you share your real life experiences with people, things that have really happened to you, all you have to do is tell them from your own. And if you're the kind of person like I am, who can tell a story in a funny way, it resonates. It matches. It's not fake. It's real. And you're coming from here. You're not coming from here. Here's where fiction. Here's where fiction is composed. Here is where the truth lives. And when the journey in your life is to be coming from the heart, no matter what. there's a marriage of the truth and the reality that resonates with people. So I just tell my truth. My truth is I was born Black and Jewish. If you can't become a comedian with those genetic beginnings, what are you doing? Black and Jewish.
I have a friend who says all the time, it's funny because it's true, right? You laugh at things because they're truthful. And oftentimes we've all experienced the same thing, and that's why we're laughing. We're laughing with you because we've experienced something similar, maybe not exactly, but you might be telling a story and I can relate it to something in my own life, and that's what makes it funny.
Yeah, the same things happen to all of us. I mean, the same things happen to all of us. It's just that some of us can tell a story and some of us forget how to tell a story when we start telling a story. I'm blessed to be one of the people that can tell a story and tell it to it. And then usually, you can find a punchy ending. That's really the key to performing in front of people, is finding a way to, bring it to a head so that it has a punchline. You're always looking for punchlines. You're finding a way to, to close it out. But tell the truth. Tell the truth is you don't have to have a memory either. And I don't have a very good memory.
But do you practice your jokes? Like, I know that there's a lot of comedians and they have a set that they work with, and they practice it on different audiences to see how it's going to go. Have you had that? Or is that how you work?
When you're under time constraints, you tend to stick to a set. I have found that I don't need to do that. I open cold every night. I open within the moment. One of the biggest central focuses of my existence is how to be right here, right now. I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm with you. That's why I love this. I'm here right now. And that's what the gratitude-based focus brings you to. It brings you to a place where you can be in the moment. And when I walk on stage, not only am I not fearful, I am in the moment. And I'll talk about the ceiling, the walls, the weather, the guy in the third row's shoes, something that happened this morning, something that happened today. I don't just say, oh, funny thing happened today when I woke up. I may share a funny thing that happened today when I woke up.
Right.
People have a tendency when they don't know what you're going to say. Comedy is about the element of surprise. You don't know when you know what it's going to be. Like if you go to a magic show and you know how he does all the tricks, you sit there going, oh, ho-hum. Yeah, he actually doesn't saw the girl in half. It's optical. There's no show. But when you don't know what someone's going to say, or when you're on the edge of your seat, that's where you get the surprise reaction, and then you get the laughter. And when people trust you, when you're coming from an authentic place, and that's just me. Other comedians have an act. Some comedians are intricate writers. Gary Marshall taught me that I don't have to write. I'm funny. All I need to do is show up and be me, and that's enough. And I don't have to do more than that. So I've built my entire business on my authentic, genuine, real personality. I tell the truth. Sometimes people don't like that, but that's okay. My business is telling the truth, and in my true heart, I want to make people's lives better. I don't want to change the world.
Right.
I just want to make people happy when they're in my presence, because I have the ability to do that. Make people happier.
So one of the questions, does your humor change as your career develops then, or is it really, it maybe changes based on your life experience?
You become more courageous. You become even more comfortable being exactly you. I don't know if you can trace this to your career, but when you first started out, you had a lot of bosses, and you had to be whoever you needed to be in order to please a client, a boss, a coworker, your direct superior, the two superiors above you. I work for the universe. I only have one superior. And as long as I remain true to the idea that we're all under the same auspices, everything that lives on this planet is pretty much at the mercy of the sun. I'll just give you a very brief astrophysics answer to this. We are exactly in this galaxy the right distance from the sun. Other planets are too far and they're freezing cold. Some of them are too close and they're burning hot. We're in the sweet spot. All the animals and all the things that live on this planet are under the auspices of the sun and oxygen. Everything that lives ocean, everything that walks around in the woods. People are the only beings on this planet that walk around going, who am I? Zebras don't walk around going, will you get a load of these crazy pajamas? How can I walk around in the middle of the jungle in stripes? The lions are going to eat me. You know, they don't have support groups for zebras. There are no support groups for chipmunks.
Mm-hmm.
Only people have to hold hands and sing kumbaya and maybe find their center. So what I've been taught is go to the real force. There's a real Wi-Fi in the universe that governs. Tap into that. If you're not into God or any of these other higher power beings, I call it whoever you are and wherever you are. Please give me the opportunity to uplift some people, make some people joyful, have a great conversation with Lisa today. And for some reason, it always seems to work out with a minimum of effort for me. And for years, I was trying hard. I don't try too hard anymore. I show up with.
But you've practiced. You've got your 10,000 hours of practice in there too to help you be who you are.
Massive.
For those people who need to, we're going to stand a little longer today, but for those people who do need to jump, because we promise it to be a 25-minute show, we can find more about Sarge at iamsarge.com, right, which we've posted there on the chat. And tomorrow we have Cass McCrory, and Cass McCrory is joining us. She's the host of the podcast Real Women in Business, and she's interviewed over 85 women talking about what their challenges have been in business and how they've pivoted or changed something or had to make major decisions in their lives and how they did it. And she'll be talking about the themes and the different scenarios that she sees over and over with the different women that she interviews. So I think she'll be really terrific tomorrow. So for those of you who have to jump, I want to thank you for joining us today. And we'll be here live on YouTube going forward. But Sarge, we've got some more questions. So we're going to keep you on for a few more minutes, if that's okay.
Fantastic. I love it.
Perfect. So what would be the biggest lesson that you learned on stage?
The biggest lesson I learned on stage is when I started performing, I couldn't have a couple of drinks to get rid of the butterflies in my stomach because performers get stage fright.
Mm-hmm.
It was an amazing synergy that the very same tactics I was taught in order to overcome my addiction was the very same thing. It was the same thing. I had to overcome fear. And so while many of my compatriots were at the bar or behind the building smoking a joint or at the bar having a couple of beers or whiskey, I would go to the bathroom and pray. I know that sounds silly, but that's what took fear away. What I learned is that when you're on stage, in the absence of fear, that's what creativity and imagination can take place. In other words, when I'm scared, you can see that I'm scared. You can smell that I'm scared. I have a limited amount of saliva. I'm not making eye contact. I'm sweating. Your whole physical self turns into a manifestation of your fear. But when you're courageous and you are, it's only then, in the absence of fear, that you can be creative and imaginative. So the biggest lesson I learned was the more I practiced my fear erasers, which are prayer and meditation, the more I did that, the less fear I had. My hand was steady as a board, and I was able to actually have the courage to be creative and imaginative. And so over the last 29 years, I've been getting more and more and more imaginative and creative and more free and more comfortable making it up from whole cloth as I go without having to prepare, knowing that it's going to be magnificent. Children have this quality of imagination. How did the lamp get broken? Well, there was a man in a red shirt and he came in with a jetpack, something. As we get a little bit older, we stop relying on our imaginations and we start to become more regimented and less free because what if we give the wrong answer? What if it doesn't work out? What if it's not a good idea? What if Lisa Nickerson fires me because she thinks it's stupid? What if it costs money? Instead, I connect directly with the universe. I do my gratitude infusion, and then courageously I walk out and I'm able to not only be me, but be me in a way where I can also be imaginative and creative. I asked for that. Another component is to get your ego out of the way. And that's what this exercise does. My ego is not in play. I'm not here to get a girlfriend or a new wife. I'm not here to make $1 trillion. I'm here for one primary purpose: to leave people a little bit better than I found them, which is my purpose today. I'll give you an example. This morning I woke up and I said, where do you want me to go? What should I do? What should I say? And to whom? It's not a religious prayer. It's just a prayer. It's a question. Where should I go? What should I do? What should I say? And to whom? And here I am. I'm not just talking to people in my house. I'm not just talking to one person on the phone. I'm talking to you. Hopefully we're inspiring all the people who've tuned in, who've come to enjoy what you decided. And this is just also synergistic. You've created this platform that inspires and motivates people. And then all you have to do is bring wonderful people in. And each week, that's the goal. The goal is not to bore people. The goal is not to get any business out of this. The goal is to just something great because it needs to be done.
Right. Well,
You know,
and I can tell you that, I had my own nervous issues going into today. We're on a different platform again, and there's new transitions and there's new ways that it works behind the scenes. And I was nervous. Is it all going to go right? Is it all going to work right? Is everything going to go on when I think it's going to go on? And I said, thank God it's Sarge today, because if something doesn't go quite right, he's going to make a joke out of it. And to be honest, I was thankful, because as we went on, as you know, right before we went on, there's always things right behind the scenes that I was checking to clarify something. And I put your bio down. Now I know your bio like the back of my hand already, but all of a sudden, like, where's my bio? And it threw me off a little bit. And then you jumped right on like, hey, we're good. And I knew that you'd be that way. And I was thankful for it as my own brain starts spinning right as we get going. So I think I share that because I want everybody to realize that not every day goes perfectly smoothly, and not everything we do in business or in our personal lives goes exactly how we expect it. And I think sometimes if you can just you power through and you laugh it off, and you're thankful for who's walking on that day, then life is good, right? I have a really fun question for you, Sarge. If you could have dinner with one comedian, dead or alive, who would it be? Question from the side we have here.
One comedian, dead or alive. It would probably be, it would have to be Don Rickles.
Really? Why do you pick him?
When you're in a craft, not just a business, when you're in a craft, it's really a lot of fun to get together with people who've been through an era of show business and been to the mountaintop, and know what the view is like from there. I've had the good fortune of meeting so many of my heroes, and you get to a certain age, heroes a lot of times will be people that appeared on black and white radio, if you know what I mean. I've met a lot of the legends, but he was the guy that was on stage when I was 6 years old, when the dream was germinated in my gut. I was watching him work. My grandfather took me to see him at a place where children were not allowed. So I was put under the table, and the tablecloth was put over me, and I was watching him work.
Wow.
And I didn't know what he was talking about because I was 6, but he was dealing in a lot of ethnic humor. And I looked back at the audience over my shoulder, 2,000 people, and they were screaming. And I thought, wow, I don't know what he's talking about, but I want to do that. Like, I want to do that. I want to wear a nice. And so to have a conversation with him would be to say, thank you. I don't know why you were the one that was on stage the night that seed was planted in my brain,
right?
But I'm grateful that it was. And the ironic thing is, I don't copy him or mimic him in any way. He performed for 7 presidents. He was on the road with Sinatra for years. He had a standing residency in Las Vegas 6 times a year. I'm not sure I'd want to be him, but I'd like to have had that footprint maybe for a while. But the point is, I just believe that, once again, certain people are put in your path at exactly the right time so that the seeds can be planted and so things can grow. And at each point, it's almost like it's like a relay race. Someone hands off the baton to someone. They're not always there forever. You know, I didn't have much of a father. My father recently passed away a few weeks ago. And one of the reasons I was able to let my dad off the hook for not being the most involved, phenomenal, positive, supportive dad was I was given all these other dads to replace him. Some people don't have a dad. Nobody replaces him. I kind of didn't have a dad. My adoptive dad wasn't that thrilled about having kids. And consequently, instead of not having that dad, I got 12 others who I thank every single day for being there to catch me at exactly the right time in my life to nurture me and push me forward and give me the dad stuff. So yeah, Rickles was there when the seed was planted, and there are many other seeds, and they're still being planted today. I don't know where it's going to.
So you guys still have a whole life ahead of you. I mean, so I think, you know, the lesson, my gosh, that you can go out there and be fearless, and that you can hit the, you know, what people consider this high life of supermodels and fashion shows and parties, and then things can go wrong, and then you can pick yourself back up again and have such a successful business like you have. And not only that, but be able to bring joy to other people and fun and laughter and have a successful business doing it. It's such a gift, Sarge. It's such a gift. So
Well, when you have insight into you have to have insight into your strengths. What are your strengths? It just so happens that when you're in business for yourself, sometimes it's out of necessity because no one else wants to be in business with you. So, but that may have been true early on. I have insight to the fact that I'm not like a lot of other people that do what I do. A lot of the people in the art, there are two kinds of people. There are the linear people who are strategic, and then there are the artists. I acknowledge that I am an artist, but the fact that I'm an artist doesn't mean I don't know how to handle my own business. A lot of the people who are artists disavow commerce. They don't understand that maybe they can handle their own stuff. They defer it to managers, agents, handlers, all these other people. When in essence, you make specific insight into yourself that you don't have to outsource your entire career. Maybe you can handle. I mean, you know, and I had enough experience with people not really having my best interests at heart, people not playing it straight with me, that I finally said, listen, if I'm going to screw up, I want to be the person screwing up. I'll handle it. I'll take care of myself. And there isn't anything I can't handle when I've engaged the protocol of peace and gratitude. There's nothing I can't handle, no matter what it is: death, failure, success. I don't know if any of your listeners and viewers can relate, but I'm sure a lot of people out there make presentations, and they stand in front of a lot of people, and it's scary. And they do the presentation, and then a bunch of people come up to them afterwards and say, wow, that was amazing. Wow, that was fantastic. And they say, oh, yeah, well, I left out a whole section, or you didn't hear when I screwed this up or screwed that up. I went through 10 years of that where people would congratulate me for a great show, and then I would tell them all the mistakes I made.
And they never saw them.
Well, someone told me, you know, they don't know what you were supposed to do. They don't know what you left out.
Right.
They were fully engaged and enjoyed it. Let it in. Thank you. Nobody cares about your mistakes. Just shut up. Nobody needs to hear it. And so finally, I mean, one of the biggest tips you can give people is just say thank you. That's a nice compliment.
Yeah.
I told you before the broadcast, I said, wow, you look beautiful today. I'm not hitting on you. And you said thank you very much. Despite what you might have thought while you were doing your eye makeup this morning, oh, my face is crooked. One of my teeth is on the side over here. My ears are a different height. You didn't say that to me. You just said, thank you very much. That's a nice compliment. Because you're probably used to hearing it.
You stop it. No.
No, I had to get that negativity out of my game. I had to stop, I had to learn how to accept and let in positivity. And the more I got out of the way, just let people thank me. That was a hard thing for me to learn to do. Learn how to be thanked.
Yeah.
That's simple, but it was a big part of my shame game, which got a long time. I'm not ashamed anymore. So there's that.
I'll tell you, I love these webinars. I learn so much every single day, and people come up to me. We were at the nursery picking up plants this weekend, and someone came up to me about one of my guests, and I didn't even know she'd been watching the show. And so I love what you're sharing today, because it's so much of, I think, what we all think about. And I think that with everybody on video right now, they're commenting on, oh, but this about my hair, or this about my makeup, or this about my lighting, and instead of just getting on and doing what they need to do, they need to stop apologizing for things, but just being great at who they are and what they do. And what a great lesson this is today. Sarge, where do people find you? So right now, do they find you on your website now? Generally, where do they find you when they're coming to see you live? And where are they going to find you right now until you're live again?
There's three main places they can find me these days. My first one is on Sarge and in Charge on Facebook. They can like my fan page, and I respond to everybody. I comment to everybody. I email everybody. So Sergeant in Charge or Comedian Sarge on Facebook. They can find me on my website, iamsarge.com. Or they can find me on one of my little projects. Here comes a plug, big plug.
Love it.
I'm working on a phenomenal podcast called Mental Radio. And Mental Radio is a project I'm fortunate enough to be one of the head writers on, with Shadow Stevens. I don't know if you've ever heard of Shadow Stevens. He was the center square on Hollywood Squares. He's a genius, a creative genius. And what we've done is we've created an entire positive, optimistical world of positivity blended with the Twilight Zone and old time radio. So we tell stories, we do clever stuff. So I'm working on that, and that lives on iTunes and on Spotify and other platforms called Mental Radio, or you can go to mentalradio.net.
Love it.
And I'm on Instagram, Sarge99 on Instagram. So if anyone wants
99?
to reach out.
Sarge, what's 99? What's 99?
There were just 98 other Sarges. I just took whatever the first one that, when I was making my handle, is whatever would. So if they just go on, actually on Instagram, it's Sarge in Charge. And they can go on Instagram for that. Sarge99 was Twitter. I'm sorry, but I don't do a lot of Twitter. I don't do a lot of Twitter. It's overpopulated.
What about TikTok? You doing TikTok?
I look at a lot of it, but
I'd like to see TikTok.
They're so clever. The stuff on there is so overly clever. It's people that have the correct mindset on how to shoot things. It's shooting things, dancing, and playing tricks on people. That's the three main things on TikTok. I don't have any inclination for that, so I don't belong on that platform. I'm not trying to dominate the world, and I'm not trying to generate likes and clicks. And I don't. Listen, if I die tomorrow, I've done just about everything that I could have ever wanted to do. And the last thing on my bucket list was, the webinar with Lisa. Lunch with Lisa was second behind going to a Balinesian spa when all this, So what else could I want?
I love it. Sarge, you're the best. Thank you so much for being on today. We need to wrap up for the day. I love that we did this extended version. And of course, everybody knows you can find us live on YouTube now. Tomorrow we have Cass McCrory. And again, she's going to talk about what she's learned from the 85 women that have been on her podcast so far, talking about real women in business. And sounds like there's a lot of the same challenges, the same questions, the same pivots, and sounds like we're all in it together. So Sarge, thank you so much again. This has been terrific. Please always reach out if there's anything I can do to be helpful to you. And I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks. Have a great day.
Thank you.